Find out what St. Lucie County Chair Franny Hutchinson has been up to the last 12 months, next on Inside St. Lucie. Hello and welcome to this edition of Inside St. Lucie, SLC TV's monthly government affairs show. I'm your host, Eric Gill, Communications Division Director for St. Lucie County. And on today's show, we're going to talk about the progress the county's made over the past 12 months with St. Lucie County Commission Chair Franny Hutchinson. Well, before we meet our guest, here's some upcoming events and announcements from the Board of County Commissioners.
The second annual Procession of the Species event is back and bigger than before. Mark your calendars for Saturday, October 27th, starting at 10 a.m. in downtown Fort Pierce. Presented by the Oxbow Eco Center, the Bacchus Museum, the St. Lucie Cultural Alliance, and the Indian River Lagoon Science Festival, there'll be lots of events leading up to the big parade, as well as opportunities for you to tap into your spirit animal and make an excellent costume for the procession. This event coincides with the Indian River Lagoon Science Festival, which takes place on the same day, Saturday, October 27th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Veterans Memorial Park, 600 North Indian River Drive in Fort Pierce. For details about the Procession of the Species, visit stlucieprocession.com or call the Oxbow Eco Center at 772-785-5833. Join us in the studio for Covering the Bases with the Mets on the third Monday of each month at noon. Featuring the St. Lucie Chamber of Commerce and the St. Lucie Mets, you can be a part of the live studio audience on the corner of Virginia Avenue and 25th Street and learn more about the important work nonprofits are doing here in St. Lucie County. Coffee with the Chair, hosted by the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce, is held on the fourth Friday of each month, starting at 8:30 a.m. in the SLC TV studios of the County Administration Complex in the old Civic Center side, 2300 Virginia Avenue, Fort Pierce. Be sure to stop in for a hot cup of coffee and hear the latest news from the Chamber and the County. A reminder that the Board of County Commissioners meetings are held at 6 p.m. on the first Tuesday and at 9 a.m. on the third Tuesday in the Commission Chambers of the Roger Poitras Administration Annex, 2300 Virginia Avenue, Fort Pierce. The board typically holds an informal meeting on the second Tuesday at 9 a.m. in Conference Room 3.
Now for the latest updates about all St. Lucie County Commission meetings, workshops, and events, be sure to visit our website at stlucieco.gov and click on our comprehensive calendar located in the lower right-hand corner. And if you'd like to be added to our press release distribution list, send us an email at slctv@stlucieco.org. We also hope you'll follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at stluciegov. We're going to take a quick break. Before we do, we're going to check in with the latest economic development stats with another St. Lucie Works.
St. Lucie County's bed tax collection jumped nearly 3% in July of this year compared to 2017. Overall, collections for the year continue to outpace all previous years. Overall building permit activity increased in July by 10% compared to June, with 1,196 permits submitted. Revenue for that same time frame was also up, with a total of $346,513. The housing market climbed again in July. According to the Florida Realtors Association, the average median home sale price in July was nearly $220,000, up 5% from last year, while condos jumped in value by 20%, with the median price at roughly $187,000. St. Lucie's unemployment held steady in July to 5.1% compared to June, but down from last July's 5.4%. Statewide, the unemployment rate ticked up slightly to 4%. There were 2,700 more jobs on the Treasure Coast compared to last year, with the largest gains in leisure and hospitality with 1,300, retail with 800, and health and education services with 400. If you work for a local business looking for skilled or trained labor, be sure to contact the staff at CareerSource as they can assist your company with its recruitment and training needs. And if you're an individual looking for a job, they can help you as well. Visit the CareerSource online at careersourcerc.com or call 1-855-4U2HIRE.
My name's Kevin Bernini, and I'm a CNC programmer, Paradigm Precision. When I started here, I started as a machinist, and over the years I kind of developed my skills and knowledge. Still learning every day, but I was promoted to CNC programming recently. Being a machinist takes a lot of patience, a lot of time to kind of build your overall knowledge of where you're working. It depends on the processes they use, but It's a skill. It's an actual skill. My father, he was a machinist, so I've kind of always been around it my whole life. I sort of developed my own path and within that field, and I've always enjoyed it. It's always been challenging and rewarding at the same time. So to be a machinist like myself, I never had college experience. It wasn't until later in life that I decided to go to college, when I was more established in my career, when I knew what I wanted to do exactly and where I wanted to take it. We have a lot of departments within the company. I'm more familiar with the lathes and mills, machining aspects of the company. The CNC aspect is controlling these machines on somewhat of a grid system. The machines are controlled by the programs that we generate based on the material, the application, the tooling available. So we ensure the most efficient and productive program. There's a lot of potential to grow within this industry. It doesn't matter if you're a machinist or an inspector or a welder. Aerospace and machining in general needs people and it needs labor force.
Welcome back to Inside St. Lucie. I'm your host, Eric Gill, and I'm joined by St. Lucie County Commission Chair Franny Hutchins.
Good
Commissioner,
morning,
thank
Eric.
you
How
for
are you?
coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
We wanted to take a look back this past year, you serving as chair, which I believe is your fourth time serving as chair
Yes.
throughout your career as a
Yes.
St. Lucie County Commissioner.
Yes, it has been. Each time has been a lot more interesting and a lot more things going on.
Absolutely,
Of great
I
importance.
can't imagine.
Yeah,
even
yeah.
you know the 15 years I've been here, the county has grown so much, and it's grown and it's shrunk and it's grown
Right.
again, at least as far as the staff. But you
Yeah.
know, the population has obviously grown over the years.
Population has grown, and you know the issues are still there.
Yeah.
You know, whether they've taken a new turn or there are new issues that have come up as we progress forward. But
Yeah.
it's always a challenge.
It is, and then every year the state makes it difficult, more and more difficult for us with some of those unfunded mandates.
That's become a yearly routine.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm trying to figure out one of these days I'm going to go back and try to find out how many times we got hit in one year, you know, with unfunded mandates.
Well, let's talk about the year in review. Let's start with
Okay.
some of the wins the county's had over the last year. It's been a really good year as far as job
It has
growth
been.
and projects.
The county's been very successful this past year, and it's due to more than the commission. It's due to the public side coming into play. It's also been achieved with the private side within our community coming to the table and working together.
Yeah, there's been a
So-
lot of those public-private partnerships. Like
Yes, there
one
has
I can think
been.
of, we just did last month. We talked about the water utilities expansion on Indio Road, and that was a project where a local developer partnered with the county utilities department to run those lines.
To put those lines down instead of tearing the road up 3 or 4 times to put it in with the new construction, which was kind of forward thinking and in my opinion, one of the best moves to do.
Yeah, and then another public-private partnership has been with the Economic Development Council. They've been our partner for a number of years.
Yes, they have.
But the last few, we've really hit some balls out of the park.
As you said, during we all term as the recession time frame, jobs were hard to come by, but we all stood together. And our focus became on trying to make sure that we weren't just bringing new jobs in from outside, but more of a focus on our local businesses. And I think that has been proven to have been one of the best moves the county's made. We've hired things like a business navigator. We've expedited permitting in many cases. In fact, we're actually looking at a project within the next couple of years of allowing all permitting, no matter what size project it is, to be done online, which is time saving for the private side, and it has a better review process.
Sure.
That can go quicker on the public side
And
of it.
easier for staff to keep track of. too.
Exactly, and you'll be able to actually track, if you're a developer coming in or, anyone for that matter. But you can apply all online. You'll still have to have some paper has to be
Sure.
kept for records. but you can make the changes and you'll see the comments as they appear from the staff instead of constantly coming back in
And trying to
having
figure out,
meetings.
is
Exactly.
the hang up in planning, or is it an ERD?
Right, and you'll
or
know
is
whose
it-
desk
yeah.
it's on. So I'm excited about that project. I can't wait to get it up and running. It's been
Yeah.
a long time coming.
Well, one of the, you talk about existing businesses, one of the big wins we had was Maverick.
Maverick
we helping them
Boats,
expand,
yes.
expand into, and City Electric's another one. Those are two companies that were looking to expand, and we could have lost those. to-
Acalina, which is
Acalina.
another one that we've done just this year, and all of those are in the manufacturing business, and they're all businesses that were here and have reached the point where they needed to expand. So I'm looking at it as a double win for the county. Not only did we retain those employees that were already there, but we also expanded the abilities to hire more.
And one of the things I want to talk about, because I've been engaged in some discussions online about tax abatement issues, and people say, well, because we have a sales tax on the ballot, we're asking residents to consider to help create a revenue stream for roads, and they say, well, if you didn't give businesses tax-free, that would pay for it, but it doesn't really, because
No, it doesn't. And one of the things that the county has, our tax abatement is actually voter approved. Every
Yeah.
10 years it's gone out and it's been successfully put back into place by the voters. And it's a performance based. There's not money up front.
Sure, we're not
It's-
giving them cash.
No. And what we're doing is allowing them to come in and to perform to what they said they set their standards. We've agreed with those, and they are on a yearly basis checked and reviewed by both the property appraiser and by the county, and the EDC, I believe, also comes into play with that. But then once we see that the performance for that past year has been met, that's when they're given a tax abatement, if you
Sure.
will, on their taxes for that year. So it's
Yeah.
not a cash flow type
Yeah.
thing that goes back and forth at all.
And it's only a limited time. It's usually only in the first 5 or 10 years.
Yes.
And and it is only county taxes. So they're still paying 50% of the other. They're still paying school district tax. They're still paying fire district and water.
Right. It
South
only
Florida Water
affects the
Management.
counties unless it's done in conjunction as partnership with the cities, if it's located within the
Sure.
cities. Many times our partnerships will extend those lines and we'll work with the cities for their businesses to also, if they're located within their limits,
Sure.
to be able to benefit from both city and county taxes.
And another good point, it's you can't give away something you don't have. So if
No.
Maverick were to leave, then we would have
It would be a
lost.
terrible loss.
It'd be a negative. So it's not
Right.
like giving
Well, that's
them a
why I
tax
say I
break.
look at it as it's a double win, because
Sure.
we're being able to retain the employees. Just at City Electric alone, that was 209 existing jobs that could have possibly moved to another state,
Sure.
and we would have been scrambling trying to bring those numbers back up and find
Sure.
employment.
But they're adding
But
50
they're
more.
adding more.
Yeah.
So, like I said, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and one of the things I've been lucky enough to do the chamber leadership program this
How'd
year.
you like that?
It's great. It's
You learn things you didn't know.
It does. And even though I've been with the county 15 years, a lot of places we go, "Hey, Eric, I bet you've been here before," because I have been, fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to go to the jail, not as a incarceration period, but
as a guest.
exactly, as a visitor, not a guest. But I've seen and learned a lot of things, and one of the things we heard from the economic development side last year is the biggest problem now is finding skilled labor.
And the county has acknowledged that for the past several years, and this year there's been a really big emphasis on the partnerships with our institutional education arm, if you will, whether it's our from kindergarten in your high schools all the way up into the university levels. So, we work closely with the school board to make sure that there's vocational training opportunities available, which they've started putting into their schools. I know the city of Port St. Lucie is very proud of the fact of looking into a vocational education charter school that will deal with a lot of that. And then as businesses come in and say, we're very specialized, especially in the manufacturing area, and we need to have very specific training. That's where we end up partnering with CareerSource and Indian River Community College or State College, along with any of our other universities here that have got programs that they can set up for that individual employer, to help train their employees as they hire.
Yeah, and we've even worked on creating a manufacturing association the last year that we didn't, but the EDC
chamber,
and
with
the
the
chamber,
yes.
the county worked together.
And it's taken off quite well, from what I understand. And I think they've got an apprentice program they're looking to roll out. We've got the Green Collar Task Force we've had in the past, and that is still active, on apprenticeship type jobs and opportunities and training
Yeah.
that can go out there.
'Cause,
Treasure
10
Coast
years
Builders,
Yeah.
they have their own, for the field of work that they work in. FP&L, they do their
Right.
own apprenticeship program that they put through and offer.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always have to be within the school system,
Sure.
but with the partners that we have, so they can be very specific to that type of employment.
Yeah, and because 10 years ago, I know there was a big focus on biomedical and
Yes,
the
there was.
research field,
Yeah.
and funding at the national level dried up, and we've always kind of tried to be involved in that and proactive with that, but also to be diversified too. And I
Right,
think,
and that's been one of the things the county's always said, and I'll go back years ago, you always heard the famous quote by then Senator Pruitt, you have to have more than a three-legged stool for stability. And I think we've taken those words very seriously and have focused on that diversifying, because not everybody's meant to go to college, but you can get a very well-paying job with a lot of benefits to it, in the vocational fields. So, I think we've noticed that. That's what a lot of our employers are asking for in businesses that we talk to. So we're trying to set the stage for the next generation, and even for those that want to go back and retrain and relearn a new field of work.
And I think a good example of that is out at the Research Park, that we've broke ground and we'll be opening soon the Sunshine Kitchen.
Yes, we will be.
That was a focus originally on biomedical or some type of research base.
Right,
but
with an ag component
with an ag
to
component,
it.
but now we're tying in a culinary component with the Sunshine Kitchen.
Well, you've got a lot of restaurants out there, a lot of people who want to go into that field. You see a lot of the, what's always affectionately referred to as mom and pop, but those are entrepreneurs, in my mind, that are going to go out there and open up a small business. And if it's in the food or the drink sector of it, will be there for them to come in and test drive, if you will, their product, along with learning all the things that they have to get covered, whether it's the Department of Health, USDA approval, all of the things that food-related products would be tied into.
All under one roof.
All under one
We were
roof.
just out there recently. They haven't officially got the CEO, but we were doing a walkthrough, getting some video, and they even have classroom space. And I know the University of Florida, the IFAS, which stands for Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences.
Yes.
Some of our extension staff will be teaching food classes, some of the certification that people need to go into the food business.
Right, it's not something that you can just cook up, in your kitchen at
Sure.
home and then go out and
Go out and
start
start
selling
selling
it
at the farmer's market.
No,
You gotta be
there's a lot
certified.
of rules and regulations from the
Yeah.
health department and USDA that come
So
into
this
play.
facility would be a nice one-stop shop.
Yes,
You
it
get
will be.
certified, also use state-of-the-art equipment, and
Right, and that's one of the requirements. They come in and do inspections if you're doing it within your home, and you have to meet certain requirements. Where here you're able to do it; it already meets those requirements.
certified
you can just kind of
facility.
like lease or rent a small space, that can get you there without that huge investment of remodeling your home
Yeah.
to do it in.
But if you
that might
did
be
want to do that,
required.
we'd still expedite your permit.
Yes.
We'd help you with that.
One of the other things, though, when you're talking about that, we've worked very closely with changing even the faces. You recall many years ago going on that research, we've kind of changed the face, or the City of Port St. Lucie has, and we've worked hand in hand with them on the expansion of what was going to be a research row is now fast becoming, if you will, still in the medical field in many cases. You'll have the Artie Day Copus nursing home down in that area, which will help some of the smaller businesses in the downtown area of Tradition, along with a hospital. You'll have a lot of doctors' offices in there, and you still, of course, have some research. And I'm hopeful that when the time comes, we'll be set up there where we'll still have that research will come back.
Yeah, and the nursing
Maybe a
home.
different form, but it'll come back.
And the nursing home is a great example too of one of those partnerships between the municipalities that got behind us and supported
That
us.
was one of the biggest, I can tell you, Eric.
I remember
that one just kind of like is so very special to my heart, because it was one of the times that you saw this whole community come together as one.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if you were private, if you were public, if you were a city, if you'd never been involved in anything. This community came together for what's right for our veterans.
Yeah.
And it came and it filtered all the way up to the state and federal. And so we were awarded that, and they've turned ground and they're working out there, and I can't wait to see the finished product. And more importantly, that we have our veterans now have a nursing home close by.
Right here, absolutely, and then it'll create some additional jobs too, like you said, in the nursing.
A lot of jobs. And again, it goes back to my discussion earlier in regards to the education factor that comes into play. We had to have a lot of our universities, Kaiser,
The college,
IRSC. What is the other one? I'm trying to think. There was
Virginia?
another. Pardon me.
Virginia College.
Might have been Virginia. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but
there
there was
were
a
three,
lot.
yeah.
There was 3 main ones that came to help the training for the nursing that was going to be required, and those are good jobs also. So they're
Yeah.
going to have it filters all the way up. So
Yeah.
again, it's the partnerships that have gotten us where we are, and I think that's what's going to continue us down the road.
Absolutely. And speaking of roads,
Yeah.
we've had
What else have we done this year?
Yeah.
I think if you're driving around town, you'll see there is the Midway Road being expanded. There is the
That's
Indrio,
the
Kings
US
Highway-
1 to
US
and
1 to 25th Street.
Yeah.
And then I know we're actively working on getting through the federal and state process of the Turnpike overpass
Yeah.
on Midway. So that'll be the next funding, that we'll be looking for to partner with and getting that done. And we're waiting on the Turnpike Authority to actually come up with their final reviews whether or not that'll qualify for a Turnpike ramp,
Okay.
off and on with the Sun Pass. Indrio Road and Kings Highway, the state is actively working on expanding that roadway from 95 to Kings Highway, and the county is partnered with them and is doing the intersection itself along with stormwater retention.
I was going to say that's a big issue.
Huge
In the
stormwater
Lakewood-
retention.
Park
Yes,
area.
it is. So we're hoping that's going to help to alleviate some. And again, I go back to, we always try to get the double bang for our buck. And so it's not only the stormwater for the flooding side of it, but it's also to clean it up before it hits our lagoon.
Yeah.
So those are kind of, and of course, Port St. Lucie has been working on Crosstown, and that's moving right along. So I think, over the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see a lot of things popping from a transportation standpoint that were years in the making.
Yeah.
But they're finally coming to fruition, and we're almost there.
But we still got some ways to go. Which
Yes,
is,
we
I mean,
do. Those are
especially
not
when we
the
talk
only
about
roads.
repaving and resurfacing.
Yeah,
that's-
those are a whole nother story. And as you mentioned on the half-cent sales tax, voters will be voting on that and deciding if that's a good investment of their dollars. And so the way these roads are getting done that we just mentioned, those were done with partnerships. Those were done with federal and state
federal.
funds, along with impact fees if they qualified, for that area. So, our paving of our roads, our repaving of our roads doesn't qualify for any of those types of partnerships. So that's where we have to ask the public to partner with us themselves,
Yeah.
for that investment.
And those that are curious, it's ballot number 14 on the amendment. There's a lot of, or amendment number 14 on the ballot.
I
There's
actually
a lot
heard
of
somebody say the other day, start from the back
back
of
and
the page
go up.
and go up.
Because 14 is pretty much the only local initiative on the ballot.
Yes.
I mean, the other ones will affect us locally, but that is the one that makes the biggest impact locally.
Right. And again, this is one that the voters can decide.
Yes,
The board
absolutely.
was very, very, they wanted that input and they
Yeah.
wanted to know.
Yeah.
When we're talking about water quality, of course, another project very dear to me that came to fruition before I actually became chair, but actually has been now up and running, is the Tenmont Creek
Yeah.
Reservoir. That project was tied up in federal legal
12
issues.
years, I think. I think
for a very
2007
long
when we did the
time,
ribbon cutting
and
on that.
We never lost track of keeping that as a #1 federal project to get released because we understood the help it would do for our water cleanup and water quality. So that is up and operating. I'm hoping that for the next 3 years, as the South Florida Water Management does their monitoring, they'll see that maybe we'll be able to increase additional storage in there. The county has actively been sitting and working with our federal and state partners in regards to the C-2324 reservoirs and STA projects. And somebody asked me the other day, well, aren't you concerned about the lagoon? Why aren't you working on lagoon projects? And I'm like, well, those are lagoon projects
Sure.
because ultimately they were going to flow to the lagoon.
Everything ends up in the
And
lagoon.
it's real hard for me to continue to ask for federal and state funding to clean up the Indian River Lagoon if I can't clean up my own water basins first. So they have to go hand in hand in the board's mind, and I think even staff's mind, and the public too. They understand, those stormwater projects you see in your neighborhoods, those are helping everybody for the
Absolutely.
quality of water.
And it's not just to help with flooding, it does have that
No.
help. But
Again,
the
you
more
get that
water
double
we can
bang.
collect and store, exactly, yeah.
So, I mean, those are good ones. You know, Indian River Estates, we just finished up one of the phases. We're actively looking into partnerships for the third and fourth phases. We're working on Harmony Heights and Paradise Park, and I think it's Fremar is one of the other
Yeah.
projects up in that area in the north end, Lakewood Park. We're looking at ways to address the flooding along with water quality.
Yeah.
So it's across the county.
It is.
You know.
And then speaking of hurricanes, it says
yeah.
flooding and hurricane season. We dodged a bullet with Florence. Unfortunately, my parents weren't so lucky up in North Carolina.
Neither was my daughter. She was up there too. She
Yeah.
said yesterday was actually one of the worst days.
Yeah, my mom
So-
started calling, panicking because all the roads to get in and out of her town are flooded. She's essentially trapped. Luckily, their
That's-
house is fine, but it's,
Well, that's
you
a
know,
good thing. You're safe. She's safe. Then,
Yeah,
tell her.
but when they tell you it'll be 6 weeks before power comes on, you start to
Oh,
panic.
wow.
But
Wow. Well,
I
you
think
know,
they're
those guys are pretty
overestimating it.
good.
But yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're
They're pretty fast. They've got this down pat with all the hurricanes many of us have
especially the
gone
last
through.
few summers.
Yeah.
But
Hopefully the rest of our summer will be good.
that's what I was going to say.
So-
But we have made some upgrades at our Emergency Operations Center.
Yes,
just
we
to,
have. That was
be
another big
prepared.
investment in the board. In the past 3 or 4 years, we've actually focused very heavily on public safety because that was one of the things in conjunction with our sheriff that during the recession we cut back in budgeting, and he worked hand in hand with us to try to get us through the bad times. So we put a heavy investment back into that department for new equipment over the past,
vehicles,
new
yeah.
vehicles, new radio system, EOC updates for emergency issues. We've done the school resource officers. You know, we've done improvements out at our jail, which will require
Security last year, yeah.
Security, yes,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, even within our own court system, because all of it filters in together under
Sure.
public safety, mosquito control. You know, our agreements with the health department, whether it's mosquitoes, diseases, borne diseases, or it's, you know, with the cancer cluster that's proposed that they say may or may not be out there and that they're investigating. These are all things that were done with partnership focused on public safety.
Sure.
So now that as we're coming out of that, you know, we've done increases for the our law enforcement for their salaries. You know, they set back as many of us did without increases.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of those. I'm proud of the fact that, you know, that we once again were able to work out a contract agreement with the Mets. They've been one of our long time. I told them, I said, we seem to be married at the hip here. They've been here, I think, one of the longest time out of all the
Florida teams.
spring
Yeah.
out of the Florida teams that we've had in one place, and they agreed, as did we, you know, to an additional 25-year extension to continue calling St. Lucie County the home of the Mets. And well, our residents out of that will end up seeing, and visitors even, will end up seeing new upgrades to the stadium. Will not be put down to the ground and being rebuilt, you know, but it'll be much needed improvements.
The
you know.
elevator will actually get
We're gonna
to
have
the.
2
It won't take a
elevators.
full inning to get to the
Right,
top
it'll
of
be,
the
and
elevator.
we'll have 2 elevators now, and there'll be easier parking, more distinguished parking versus driving around in the half circles.
And then forgetting where you parked after the game.
There you go. Yeah, which one did I walk in? Which gate did I walk into?
Sure.
You know, and again, that's one that done with our tourism department.
That's what I was going to say.
That
For
those
those that get
improvements.
concerned about
Yeah.
you're spending $55 million, $20 million of it came from the state.
20 million was from the state, and the rest of the funding was coming out of tourist
Bed tax.
dollars only, and not bed tax, which is also called. But those are not coming out of the general revenue fund. You
Yeah.
know, so that was a key part of that extension.
And
from the
then
board's
we've
perspective.
been able to accomplish all this and actually we're keeping the tax rate the same. We got one more budget hearing, but we can't
This
go
Thursday.
higher, you know.
Higher and lower,
Yeah.
and you know, one of the good things about that, knowing that there's so many things that we've having to still catch up on, and to show that we're really spending our money where we are, our budget, overall budget, is actually lower
Than last year.
than last year's. So we're trying to work with less and still do more, and at the same time understanding how those increases into the millage rate and or even your value of your home increases your taxes. So we're trying to keep the millage at the current rate, and as we progress forward, I'm hoping that we'll one day start looking at lowering it again.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that far off in the future that'll
No,
start
because I
happening.
think, Mr. Tipton, our county administrator, had a plan to have us with a sustainable budget by 2020, and we're
Yes.
still on track to do that. Now the
We're
state
still
may
on track.
derail us with Amendment 1 and some other things, but
Goes back to the beginning of our conversation
Yeah.
on the unfunded mandates.
Yeah.
So yes, we are mandated to cover those expenses, whether we're not asked. We're
Yeah.
just told to cover them.
yeah.
So, and we got hit with several right at the end of our budgeting this year, as we went through our workshops that came out of the blue. So we had to kind of scramble around and cut back a little bit more
Yeah.
in certain areas.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, the board put the half-cent sales tax on the ballot is, let the voters decide, where you have a say in that, how that money stays locally, and it can only be spent on capital project. Can't be spent on salaries or,
It's actually tied up
lifeguards.
several ways by state law. It's also tied up by ordinances
Yeah.
in many cases. The cities have partnered with us. We're standing united.
But that would be a little over $18.5
For the
million
county.
coming back right here,
Yes.
staying local. Again, talk about jobs, those projects, anytime you all have an opportunity, you try to hire local contractors.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And in fact, that's a preference here in the
Local
county,
preference,
that we do a local entity.
Sometimes when there's federal dollars in, we're not allowed
We're
to
not
use
allowed
that,
to, or
but,
even states
Yeah.
sometimes doesn't allow us to do it.
but these local dollars would stay local, and we'd hire as many local contractors as we can.
There you go.
So,
So it's been a good year, all in all, and I think that St. Lucie County's got a lot going for it.
yeah. Well, Commissioner, anything coming up on the horizon that you're,
I
mention or
think there's
concerned
just two things that we didn't touch was just an update on our airport. That's been a successful economic tool that the county has used. We just did an opening for our new customs office where you can get the global entry card. It's good internationally without having to wait in lines, from what I understand.
Yeah.
You have a free walk-in, an hour a day is what they're proposing. And then, of course, we're looking forward to start reviewing the RFQs. These are requests for qualifications for operators who would be interested in helping us operate the port. Again, that's one of the things that the board has decided was a huge economic portion of diversifying through that, that we think we can get there. And hopefully, we'll be reviewing those and having an answer soon on that as we move in to the next year.
because one of the things, I think most of the ports in Florida, we're one of 20 deep water ports, I think,
16,
or
I think it
16?
is.
Okay,
16.
yeah, I can't remember if it was 18 or, but most of those ports are public. They're
Publicly
owned by,
owned, right.
They're
The
not
county-
privately owned like ours used to be.
Yes,
Last
and,
year
and
the
you're
board
right.
made
The county did.
the
We did
investment.
make that investment out there and purchase some of the property, and thereby it actually enables us to help the private side, if you will,
Yeah.
because we can apply for funding for the infrastructure within there, whether it's bulkheads, dredging that may or
Seawalls.
may not be done, your seawalls, all of the things that are going to make it workable.
Yeah, and I remember former county administrator Doug Anderson, when I asked him when he was retiring years ago, what was his biggest regret, that, things that he didn't get,
Yeah.
the port. That was his biggest, I didn't get the port done, they.
Well, I think it's all in its timing.
True.
And-
it's not that
and
it
with
lack for
state-
trying. At the time, the seller didn't want to sell, and you didn't want to enter in a mint domain, and
Exactly, and we
And
couldn't get there, and then we had the opportunity to purchase the property, and the board really dug in deep as far as making sure it would be a good investment and that the numbers would work, not only right now that we can pay that bond off, but also in the future. And what is the economic turnaround? I think it's predicted to be close to about 900 jobs can be performed out of there, when it's built. Now, is it going to happen overnight? No.
Yeah.
But most success stories always take a little bit of time to get up and going.
Yeah,
So that's a good investment.
absolutely. Anything else, Commissioner?
No, I just want to thank you for being here, helping me out this entire year. You and your crew have been great with our meetings and so forth, and making sure we get good things out within the county.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the bad stuff,
Yeah.
and heaven knows we still know there's some things that need
There's
fixed.
always room for improvement.
There you go.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of success within St. Lucie County.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sticking around.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up the show. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Inside St. Lucie, and we hope you'll tune in again next month. If you have topics or subjects you'd like to see covered here on the program relating to St. Lucie County, give us a call at 772-462-1791 or send us an email at slctv@stlucieco.org. And if you'd like to see previously aired episodes of this or other programs produced by SLC TV, visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/stluciegov. I'm your host, Eric Gill. For myself and the staff, thanks for watching.